Gentlemen, welcome to the Michigan City Commissioners regular meeting, Wednesday, January the 27th, 2021. I'd like to call to order the meeting with the roll call. Ettinger.
Present.
Schmidt.
Tim Smith, are you there?
Yes, I am. I'm here. Sorry, you cut out, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'm sorry. Forgive me. Mr. Harris.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you.
Mr. Wright.
I'm here, President.
I'd like to make it note that all is present. Can we get a motion?
I'll make the motion to pass the previous
for the roll call and we don't need a okay, yeah, for the minutes. Where is the minute?
It's after the election of the officers, Gary. We do the election of the officers first.
Okay. First business, the election of officers and approval of the minutes. What we're going to do is we can do it one or two ways. I was trying to explain to the few commissioners that were on the phone, here before the meeting started. We could keep it the same if all in favor to do it that way, or we could just have an election.
I would make a motion due to the COVID and just keeping the consistency of order of business that I would make a motion that Gary Mitchell continue as president, Tim Smith as vice president, and myself, if someone would agree, to nominate me as continuing as secretary. I would make a motion that we continue that, specifically due to COVID. I'll go ahead and nominate you for secretary, Mr. Tim Smith, and I'll accept, sir.
Yes, this is Jeff, and I would second all of that.
Okay, all in favor?
All right.
Okay. There's no opposed, I don't believe. Okay, for the minutes then.
I'll make a motion to approve. Mrs. Holt. And I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Will there be any public comment?
Is there any public comment? Any public comment?
Will there be any public comments?
Doesn't sound like it.
Okay, Dan McCoy.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
Oh, thank you. Review the December health and safety report. There weren't any injuries in the refuse department during the month, and however, there were 2 recordable injuries in the water reclamation department. Those 2 injuries were a collections maintenance employee that was removing a 90-pound truck and placed a jackhammer against the truck, and it slid a little bit, pinched his little finger, and almost fractured his distal phalanx at the tip of the finger. And then he's back to work. He's back to work now. And the collection maintenance, another one occurred when a video sewer inspection being performed. The employee strained the right side of his lower back while he was lifting the camera on a pole. They have a hoist, but you still have to position the camera and manually with that hoist. So he did back. He would work. He received physical therapy at this time. We expect him to be back to full duty shortly. One thing I want to mention last month in process safety management and risk management program, it takes quite a considerable effort to maintain that. One area that I want to highlight is the disinfection process operating procedure, which is required by both OSHA's Process Safety Management Standard and EPA's Risk Management Program. The operating procedure we've had for some time, but it required some modifications. And so on page 4-5, it shows the level of detail that's required by the regulation for that procedure. I had as often the chief days before Dave went through this procedure with a fine-tooth comb. Just an absolutely outstanding job working with it. I worked with him closely on it to make sure that we followed the compliance and a lot of it was involved in it as well. Yes, as well as the chief mechanic. And so that's now in very good shape. And so one thing that we have 3 people who are qualified to operate the disinfection system. And the disinfection system will be operated by the water reclamation superintendent, the chief operator, mechanic. And so we'll need to look at some point in time of training some additional individuals or individual on that responsibility. Would be my recommendation that we consider something like that in the future, so that we do have maintained 5 individuals for that process, to operate that process. First of all, are there any questions on the monthly report? Okay. On the end. No, excuse me. There's some noise in the background. It's kind of annoying. Could we quit all that moving? Because it's making a lot of noise and it's kind of distracting this meeting.
Yeah, it might be best to just mute your phone unless you got something to say, then just unmute it.
Yeah.
All right, Dan, go ahead.
Okay, sir. So looking at the annual report, that's an 11-page report. Hope you had a chance to take a look at that in some detail. To summarize some of the activities and to summarize the performance, in the rep department in 2019, we had 8 reportable injuries. Unfortunately, in 2020, we had 13. Most of these injuries are related to pinch points and that type of strains and sprains. We have what I call job aids that we're implementing right now. And the job aids are a front end loader and also, a backhoe. It seems like many of our injuries occur when we're trying to lift heavy objects and put them into the hopper of the refuse truck. We have several of those injuries. So if we can use equipment like the front end loader and the backhoe that has a thumb on it that will allow us to pick up items, we can put them in a dump truck and be able to handle it that way and minimize manual material handling. So that will be one significant improvement. With water, go ahead.
This is Frank. Do you have a maximum amount that these people are supposed to lift?
100 pounds.
Yes, sir. 50 pounds.
The job spec says 100 pounds.
Yeah,
That's pretty heavy.
Yeah, 100 is top spec. We practice 50. We say if it's around 50 pounds, you need to get help.
Yeah, I would agree. 100 pounds is too heavy.
Yeah, that job spec probably needs to be changed.
Yeah, I agree.
So, And water reclamation, in 2019, we had 8 recordables. In 2020, we reduced it down to 5. That's a 37% decrease. We're not happy with any increase. We certainly don't want to have any, but it has decreased from the previous year. Again, what we're looking at, pinch points, strains and springs, and dust in the eye in one case. That employee returned back to work immediately after he went over and was checked out. It's working well. Taking a look at the report on page 4, get into some detail about the wastewater treatment disinfection process, about the risk management program and OSHA's PSM program. I've talked about this quite a bit, and I thought it would be very helpful to show what are the program elements that are required by each standard. And we can see that on the left-hand side that that's the EPA RMP requirements, and then on OSHA PSM, it's on the right-hand side. So there are 14 requirements in PSM, and within the RMP program, there are 17 requirements. And if we look at number 15, it deals with hazard assessment, off-site consequence analysis. That's what we use. That's where we use our worst case scenario, our alternate case scenarios, to take a look at our table and using our tabletop exercises to identify any areas where we need to improve on that. And that takes me to number 6 on that, page 5. And on the disinfection process, on the tabletop exercise, we had a recommendation from one of the participants. I believe it was the LaPorte County hazmat director, saying that we should consider a scrubber system that would absorb or neutralize the contents of a 1-ton chlorine or sulfur dioxide container. It was noted that the water department has one for their chlorine containers. And so after the exercise, several of us went over and were invited to the water department to take a look at their system. It's an older system. They use a wet type scrubber. There are 2 basic types, a wet and a dry. We're taking a look at, taking a look at the dry scrubber system. It has a higher initial cost, but the maintenance cost over the life of the equipment is much, much less than a wet scrubber. So we're looking at that and looking at the feasibility of that, both myself and the operations manager. We've just begun starting that activity, so we'll keep you informed as that goes along. Also, the RAISE community notification system, we want to work with that as best we can and get that implemented in 2021 as best we can, given the COVID restrictions and all that we have to work with in meeting and trying to get things implemented. And then I've attended the local emergency planning committee meetings. I've done that. Most of the meetings are Zoom meetings. We have a meeting coming up first week of February, and that's a Zoom meeting. And again, I've mentioned that we've done quite a bit of work on revising our procedures on RMP and PSM. On contractor safety, there hasn't been any contractor injuries reported in the district in 2020. And just so that we're aware of it, we remain aware of it, the OSHA PSM standard requires that we keep track of injuries that occur in the disinfection process. That's specifically written into the standard. Also, it is looked at by EPA under the RFP standard. So there is that one requirement. And so that's why I noted in there that all the contractors have performed well and they comply with the PSM requirements. And we're required to do an annual evaluation of their performance and document that. The chief mechanic does with a little bit of assistance from me. So quite a bit of effort related to COVID-19 with many of the departments within the city. I've outlined those on pages 7 and 8. And we should be in line for vaccinations soon as essential employees. Some of us, like me, will get theirs tomorrow since I'm above the age for the people who are eligible for that. So I'll be getting my vaccination tomorrow. So in December, I started the COVID-19 LaPorte County updates, and it's a Zoom meeting, and I gained a good bit of information about the status of the programs, both testing and vaccinations, within LaPorte County. So, other things that we've performed, we complete the annual Tier 2 report, and we complete our OSHA record-keeping requirements and put those requirements and also submit electronically to OSHA. And then moving on to projects on page 11. Special project is done just about annually, the anhydrous hydrogen chloride, and that's the cleaning of the aeration system diffusers, and so that's performed, and we performed that without incident, which is outstanding. The next item, assisted the general manager with the workplace hazard harassment prevention training program. That was for all district employees, and hats off to everyone in the district. We completed that with 100% compliance. Everyone took and successfully completed that training. So that's quite a bit of activity in light of all that we've gone through, and we know all of us firsthand about the disasters and terrible consequences related to COVID-19, and hopefully we can see some light at the end of the tunnel with vaccines, and hopefully the vaccines are effective against the new variants that seem to be coming as we speak. So are there any questions?
This is Jeff. I have a question.
Yes, Jeff. Uh-oh, we lost Jeff. Yeah, I'm still on. Did we lose Jeff? Okay, when Jeff comes back on, I'll be happy to answer the question, and I'll turn it over back to you, Mr. Mitchell.
Okay, thank you, Dan. We'll give him a minute here. Give him a minute, see if he can get back in.
He comes back, Gary. We could just let him ask his question, huh?
Okay. We're going to go ahead and open quotes and bids.
Okay, we've got quotes for two different things. The first one is Fogarty Street sanitary sewer extension, or sanitary sewer extension. We actually have 5 quotes on this project, and I don't know if this is because Jeff Wright put out the design or what. People want to really quote on his projects, I guess. So that's one thing to note, that our city engineer actually developed these plans and specifications, and this is what we got, 5 quotes. So the first quote is from, I guess I don't know exactly who it's from. It's from Woodruff and Sons, and in the amount of $112,249.
Just joined the conference.
I know you're ready for this. $1.88. Jeff, I was just saying we got 5 quotes on the Fogarty Street project. I don't know if that's because that's a lot of quotes for us. We don't normally get that many. That might be because everybody really liked your project design. They want to bid on your project, so I'm not sure. But you started.
Well, could be a lot of errors and omissions. I hope not.
Yeah, I hope not too. I'm sure it's not. And also, we had a situation. You were trying to answer Dan's question, and you got cut off. So, you asked Dan a question. So, if you want to go ahead and do that first, before we go further.
So, did you get the question?
No, we did not.
Okay, so my question was, and thanks for backing up a little bit. The question was, the job description that has the 100 pounds, does that take a board motion to change that, or is that just something you guys do?
Hang on.
The job description?
Hang on, Jeff. What it says in the job, I was going to mention this, but then I thought I'll just let it go. It's the ability to lift 100 pounds. In other words, you have to have someone that's strong enough to work in the refuse department with the ability to lift 100 pounds. It doesn't mean we're going to go out and lift 100 pounds. It just means that the people that will qualify for this job have to have that type of strength. They have to be strong enough to lift 100 pounds. And then we have a policy, our policy in the refuse department is we don't lift anything over 50 pounds, like Dan said, without help. So that's all it is. I don't think it's we could change it if you guys want me to change it, but it's just certain jobs, like I think most jobs we have around the district require you to be able to lift 50 pounds, no matter what job you're in. But, this is a job that requires more strength, so.
I get it. Okay.
All right.
Understood. So, yeah, next item, real quick, was for Dan, and I'm just wondering, we have our, you keep track of the statistics in the refuse department or collections or whatever, and I'm just wondering, do you track that with some kind of, are we within like a national average or a state average or a northern Indiana county? I'm wondering, do we have any information like that? Are we within the norm of incidents?
That's a very good question. What we did a couple years ago, I was asked by Michael to take a look at that. And what we found was that within refuse, for example, that is typically one of the top 5 or 10 most hazardous jobs. And so, thank goodness, we're lower from that standpoint. But when you have, having a recordable injury means that you receive medical treatment. And so we're very conservative on that. If someone reports an injury, like a strain or sprain, we send them to Working Well and they receive treatment. So we are somewhat conservative on that. Now, to get back, are we within average or not? Statistics aren't really very accurate at all regarding do we fall into the state standard? Do we fall into a national standard? The only thing I was able to derive from an association of waste treatment and refuse hauling association was that this particular profession is in the top 5, sometimes in the top 10 of most hazardous locations, and there are a lot of fatalities within this particular field. And usually from falling off trucks, turning over, different things like that. Getting hit by vehicle, and those types of terrible incidents.
Hey, Dan?
Does that help any?
Hey, Dan, maybe you could look at putting together stats again like you did last time. Actually, it was Commissioner Frank Harris that actually asked you to do that. So maybe you could put some thought into that again for our next board meeting.
Yeah, what I was saying is you should be able to benchmark against something. I mean, there should be other wastewater treatments that you can benchmark and see how you're doing.
Right, exactly.
Hey, Jeff, this is Scott. Charlie King is going to be presenting, the annual insurance premiums next month. I asked him, he's going to present the workers' comp claim that we had last year, and they are up. So, but I've asked him to propose a little schedule that shows year over year for the last 5 years. So that might answer some of these questions.
I'm just wondering if, maybe if there isn't, and it's hard to track national or state numbers. I mean, can we just compare ourselves to the wastewater and beat them? Something like that. I mean, is it something we can just get locally?
Well, I think
how are the other departments doing?
Jeff, I think that our job classification falls into a certain code, a classification code, and there are statistics on these codes, and that's what Dan did last time. So Dan could also try to go a little deeper with all that, but let's see what he comes up with. He can try to report at our next board meeting. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, that sounds great.
All right. Okay.
We're going back to the codes, Mike.
Okay, so the first quote we had for Fogarty was Woodruff and Sons in a total of $112,249.88. And then the second one we have is from Walsh and Kelly, and their total quote is $115,670 and no cents. These quotes were emailed to us, by the way, because of COVID-19. So the next quote we have.
Did you say that was Walsh? Walsh and Kelly?
Yeah, Walsh and Kelly from South Bend. The next one we have is from HRP Construction from South Bend. They are $143,000 even. The fourth one we have is from bear with me, I gotta flip the pages on this one. D&M Excavating, they are $128,001. $128,001. And then the last quote we have is from, bear with me, I've gotta flip the pages again on this one. It's from Reith Riley, I can see that, but I gotta find the quote page. The quote page from Reith Riley is $132,435. Gary, I would like you to entertain a motion that we could review these plans and specs and issue the project for construction pending review by the city engineer and by our attorney. This is a situation where they need to get this sewer installed, so I'd really rather just get moving on this instead of waiting to the next board meeting if we can get such a motion passed.
Okay. Is that okay, Mr. Myers? I mean,
yeah, the board can authorize the award to the lowest responsible quoter based upon, and after review, as Michael said, of him, he and his staff and myself and the city engineer, which obviously is Jeff.
so could we get a motion for?
I would make a motion to approve.
This is Holt, I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed.
Okay, and then the next set of quotes we have is for the Michigan Boulevard Stormwater Green Infrastructure Landscaping, and I believe we only received one quote for this, and it was from Servicescape LLC here in Michigan City, and their total quote is for $50,376, but I would like to add that includes some additional work that we may not do, which is insecticide for the trees, which is $4,000. Insecticide application for the planter trees was $1,600, and insecticide for the planter stems is another $800. So, but the overall quote is $50,376.70. For this one, Gary, I would just like you to, if we could, board members, just get a motion to evaluate, and we'll come to the next board meeting with a recommendation, because I don't think they would need to get started on this until sometime in March.
Could we get a motion, could we get a motion that we, that Mike...
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Okay. Could we get a second?
I'll second it, Tim Smith.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No opposed. All righty, Mike. We're going to move on to the COVID-19
Okay, the first
emergency update.
The first thing we have is a COVID update, response update. I'm happy to report the COVID situations here at the sanitary district have really seemed to have died down. I'm not really aware of any COVID-related issues in the last couple of weeks or so. So it seems like maybe we've turned the corner on that, and we've done pretty good overall. Of course, with the untimely passing of our IT.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mike. Sorry. Someone's got a sharp alarm going off. Could we mute out or something?
I was just saying that we've done pretty well at the sanitary district, and of course, with the exception of the passing of former Commissioner Harris. I believe we had a moment of silence for him at the last board meeting, and worked in the IT department and was mostly stationed over at the police station for the most part anyway. So, and then we have this extension here of the Families First Coronavirus Response Act that was given us the opportunity to extend the 10 days of paid sick leave for qualified individuals, and I wrote this memo on January 4th, which I think you all saw, and then combined with that, we have this resolution 1429-21, which just basically states that the sanitary district will extend the FFCRA through March 31st, 2021. So I think we should like to get a motion to approve this resolution 1429-21.
Could we have a motion? Will there be a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the resolution 1421.
Could we get a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed. Okay, we're going to move right along to the financial reports with Scott Chippewa. Scott.
Hi, good afternoon.
How are you?
I'm alright. I'll start by reading the cash balances. Attorney Meyer pointed out to me the sheet of cash balances that is in the booklet. The third column of numbers had a typo. That should be December 2019.
You're sounding kind of muffled.
Oh, am I?
Yeah, you're not coming.
Can you hear me now?
I'll move to that's better.
Yeah.
That's better.
I'll move to the kitchen. Sorry. So anyways, Attorney Meyer pointed out that I had a typo in the third column, and that should be December 2019. So, all right, I'll read the cash balances. The operating fund had a balance of $1,396,844.53. The municipal account had no balance. The improvement fund had a balance of $861,345.03. The replacement fund had $85,599.76. The equipment replacement fund had $664,726.41. For a total net bank account of $3,008,515.73. The Indian Springs and Whippoorwill construction projects had no balance, so the bank account, there was nothing there. The SRF debt reserve had $499,571.26, and the SRF bond and interest had a balance of $210,288.21 for a total at BNY Mellon of $709,859.47. The Stormwater Fund had $579,054.37. The municipal account had no balance. The Refuse Fund had $1,364,290.43, and the Special Revenue had a balance of $1,429.75. The Levy Excess Fund at $8,522.14, and the Tax Levy Grant Fund and Rainy Day Fund had no balances, for a total net bank account of $1,953,296.69. And then the Carwick remediation had a balance of $243,440.58 for a total of $5,915,112.47. I put some notes down the right for the difference in balance, but I highlighted, the total bank balances before the Carwick remediation fund were actually $734,559.85 better than we were at this point last year. So actually, it was, we had a pretty good year as far as the cash flow went. So I'll answer any questions if anybody has anything. Okay, I'll move along. I included the budget performance reports for the operating fund, the refuse fund, and the stormwater fund. And you can see that we had a really good year financially from maintaining the budget, and our expenses were lower than we were expecting. The revenue was lower in the refuse, but overall we did really well last year. So on all of those, if anybody has any questions, I'll answer them. And then finally, the dump trucks. Back in February of 2020, the board approved the purchase of 3 Cng dump trucks, subject to us getting a 25% grant. It took nearly a year for these trucks to be built. So at the time, we had financing to purchase the trucks. And what happened was, since it took so long to build them, all that financing expired, which was the bad news. But the good news is, when we went back out for quotes, we got 4 quotes, and they ranged from 3.02% down to 2.1%. And so originally we thought we were going to finance these trucks with a 4-year lease, which would have cost 2.72%. We've been able to obtain financing over 3 years at 2.1%, which is a really great deal. And it's with Crossroads Lease, which we have a history with. We've
we've had 5 previous leases with Crossroads. In fact, the 5th one, the first 4 have been paid off. The 5th one will be paid off March 1st. So this is like a really good deal. I believe all the board members have gotten some from Attorney Meyer. Resolution, and this is a really good deal, and I would just ask the board to approve that resolution so that, you know, this financing will be in place.
How do we do it? You want a motion?
I would just ask for approval. Yeah, it's approval of, it's resolution number 1430-21.
Okay. Can we get a motion for 14-21?
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 1430-21.
Yeah, 14 then. Can we get a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No opposed.
Okay, hey, Gary, one last thing I'd just like to say. I would just, 2020 with the COVID thing, been a pretty tough year. And I just want to thank the office staff alphabetically, so no one gets mad at me. It'd be Cheryl Bates, Melody Haynes, Rachel McCline, and Destiny Morris. They've done a really great job this year. We've kept all our employees and suppliers paid. We've got receipts deposited. And just overall, I mean, there's a link between us and the citizens, and I just think they did a great job. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Mr. Kickler. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah. So, and that's all I got, unless you guys got any questions.
No. That should do it. Mike, is this where you are going to update us on the projects here?
Sounds like a good idea. The Cheney Run project is pretty much complete, with the exception, there was one bulk of planting of some wetland plants that they did not get completed last year, and it was due to timing and so forth, so they have to plant that in the spring. And then also Ted has developed the Cheney Run as-built construction report, and he sent that over to the Lair grant people, because we have this grant that's helping to pay for this project. I think it's $100,000 of the Lair grant, if I'm remembering correctly. And then Rod Edgell from the IDNR, he had some comments, so I've included both of those in your packet, and Ted's working on revising that as-built report. So if there's any questions about that?
Okay. Is there a certain time limit that we told to spend it?
No, we've already spent all the money. We're doing fine on all that. It's just he has to have this final report before we can get reimbursed for our grant.
Oh, okay.
The next thing is the Carwick dump site. The project is substantially complete. There was a small punch list of items that we included removing the temporary fence, which was done, and they're monitoring the grass and tree growth, and
How'd you look it up? That's what I need to know.
Hello?
Excuse me. Hello? We're in a meeting.
Put it right over there. This whole one,
Must have been somebody on the public line.
somebody sitting open, so.
Good Lord.
Thank you for your patience. Could you come in on the line for the next available associate? Thank you.
I turned it all the way down. I could mute it, but it's not going to mute them talking. It's just going to mute us talking. So anyways, there was also a notice of termination for the construction project that's associated with the stormwater construction permit, and that has been sent into the IDEM, and we'll probably receive a note. We'll probably receive back that they've terminated the project. Whenever you have a construction project more than an acre, you have to have a stormwater associated with construction permit, which we have for that site. It's kind of odd because it's actually a stormwater, it's a facility designed to treat stormwater, so it's in addition to that, you had to have this permit while you're doing the construction. I'm sorry, I was talking about Chain You Run, I'm confusing myself. The Carwick site is not a stormwater project. The Carwick site is the dump remediation, and we had to have a stormwater associated with construction permit for that site, and since the project is almost done, substantially complete, we've sent this notice of termination into the IDEM. The next project is the North End study, and that is preliminary results and exhibits from the stormwater.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do something with the public line.
It's a board meeting, Mike. We're not supposed to be in the garage here. We got to do something about it.
It sounds like it's one of the board members, someone on the board members line.
Well,
Frank, are you there?
In the garage. Come on, you guys.
Hello, I'm here.
All right, there was a lot of extra noise. We're trying to figure out who was. So the North End capacity study is, we've got preliminary results on that, and we were going to have a meeting tomorrow to go over some of those results a little more, but they've postponed the meeting till next week. But basically, this is the project that is supposed to allow us the opportunity to put together the sewer capacities, where all the sewers are, and the inverts of all the sewers in case there wants to be any development in the North End part of the city. We have an invoice on that project from Haas & Associates for $5,438.20. This has been reviewed by staff and signed, verification of services form has been signed, so I'd like to ask the board to approve this payment to Haas for $5,438.20.
This is Holt.
Can we get a second?
I'll second it, Tim. Smith.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed?
Okay, the Long Beach sewer study is an update on that. Nothing really news going on. Haas & Associates is preparing a proposal to do the design work, and we'll have that for our next board meeting for approval by the board if you so want to approve it, to do the design. We have all the funding through SRF in place, and I've talked with Attorney Meyer about this. We really feel that we need to have some agreements for every step along the way with Long Beach to make sure that they're fully on board with us spearheading this project and moving this project forward. So that's the progress there. The only progress we have on Streetle Pond is that this prescribed burn of the invasive species is scheduled for late winter / early spring. Pine Tree, the next thing is the 300 North project. Matt Reardon explained that there are no new developments. He's the Economic Development Coordinator for the LaPorte County, that there's no new developments other than Transcontinental Pipeline is reviewing the latest site plan from Love's, and he's also trying to secure a bond buyer for the project. So if you got any money out there, you want to buy a bond for a sewer project, you might want to give Matt a call. The next project is the Pine Tree Court Sewer Extension. The project is complete, and John Doyle reports back that testing of the sewer has been completed, the manual test and the pressure test, and it passed, and the only thing we're waiting on there is for the grass to grow. The energy savings report. The energy savings report for January showed that we saved $3,038.33. That's a little less than I think we had last month, where we saved $7,700. I was a little surprised that this month wasn't better, but these are the stats as we have them. So that's still pretty good, though. We're on pace for a third-year extrapolated savings of $85,000. And just to recap, the first year we saved $56,000. The second year we saved $71,000. And then this year, like I said, we're on pace to save about $85,000. I think one of the reasons for the increase in the savings is because the fact that NIPSCO has a higher rate now, and also we've also implemented a lot of additional energy savings projects that we've talked about at some of our more recent board meetings. And I think that capacitors we put in for the power factor also helped out too. I would also like to report, just in very general terms, we met with mediation, and we really didn't make very much progress on the fact that we're still not achieving the guaranteed savings that we feel that we should be achieving. The next thing is the Blue Swag report. I really don't have anything there. It's just in your packet. We did have another meeting today about looking at some additional grant funding, and also House Representative Pat Boyd brought up some bills that are pending in the House, and we discussed some of those today too at our Blue Swag meeting. The Whisper Dunes agreement. The agreement was sent to Kevin Carlson at Dunescape on December 21st, 2020, and he's not signed it or returned it yet. He did write me a note back about 3 weeks ago or so, said he received my email, but he hasn't had time to work on it yet, and I've sent him 2 emails since then, and I've gotten no response. I don't know if anybody else has heard from him, but I have not. The next thing in the packet is some of these plant improvement projects. I talked a little bit last board meeting about the bulbar channel airflow control, the post aeration DO control, and the ultrasonic height sensors in the filter building. And in this packet, we have 2 reports in here. One is the ultrasonic height sensor and flow meter for the primary influent, and the other is the chlorine contact tank residual chlorine meter. What we did was we installed a new flow meter for our primary influent. Our previous flow measurement was, we have a 6-foot rectangular weir there that the water flows over, and based on the height of the water flowing over the weir, there's calculations. If you look through this report, I actually included some of the tables at the end, but the calculation is in here, and we can measure the amount of flow going over the weir based on the height of the water going over the weir. We used to have pressure transducers that were down under the water that transmitted a signal of how much water pressure there was, and then the amount of water pressure is translated into the height. And the problem with those pressure transducers is that the water flow through there would move them around, and they'd jostle around, and sometimes they would even become loose, and it really was very unreliable. So far, since we've installed this ultrasonic meter, we've had a lot better flow measurement at our primary influent, and while we really don't want to have a big rain event, that's when it's really going to be critical. We'll see how that works during the big rain event. The next thing we have is the chlorine contact tank residual chlorine concentration. This was instituted because we had a couple situations throughout 2020 where our chlorine feed for our disinfection, we had some temporary malfunctions, and our operators were started to measure the contact tank more frequently, and they're going out and getting these samples all the time. So we decided to install a automatic continuous meter that measures the chlorine concentration at the end of our contact tank, and then we have it hooked into our Scada system and so forth to give us alarms. And this was never wired up yet, so we got this wired up, and then I put a report in here, a management of change report that I prepared that includes pictures and all the wiring and everything, so staff can all look back at this and see what we did, and if there's any questions about where the wires go or anything like that. So that's the purpose of those reports. Are there any questions about those reports before I move on? Okay, the next thing in the packet is a professional service amendment with the Shambaugh and Sons. Alex Lagacy, who's their representative, has been just doing an excellent job assisting us. We've made so much progress in the last couple of months on this stuff. All this wiring and these 2 reports here that I provided you this month and the 3 reports I provided last month, he was integrally involved with helping us every step of the way with the tags for the programmable logic controller tags and all the wiring and where they go and the signals, and helping us with the calculations and implementing a lot of that. So he's just been doing a really excellent job. Unfortunately, we had a first agreement was for $5,000, and he's approached that, and we need to extend that. So we issued another professional service agreement amendment for $9,000, and I put a copy of that in your board packet. The next thing we have is this Wonderware Scada system project update. The things we've accomplished is we've developed the deployment, of an application for the operations of the video wall PLC. Now we've got it on a big video wall in the operations room. They can see everything that's going on. That's a huge step in the right direction. Continuing to make adjustments to the alarms. He's developed 6 daily / weekly monthly reports. Now with this new system, there's one of the components is these reports. So every day, week, month, whatever we set it up for, any parameter that we're measuring, the system can actually generate a report. So you'll come in the morning and you'll have an email, and it'll be the report of the blower speeds, or the report of the dissolved oxygen levels, and we've identified 6 of those reports, and he's developed those, and they will be starting to hit our emails soon. He's upgraded and deployed the power status screen. One of the things we have is we have main power, main switchgear that comes into the plant. We have 2 power feeds, as you guys may or may not know. It's a requirement by our permit from the state of Indiana that we either have backup power like a generator, or we have to have 2 feeds that come into our plant, so that if we lose power on one feed, we still have power on the second feed. That's how we operate here at the district. We also have a pretty large portable generator. We have a couple of them, but one of them is pretty large that can run our sewage pumps if we ever would need that. But we also have 7 other what are called motor control centers throughout our wastewater treatment facility, and those 7 motor control centers are on the screen, and we're working on chasing down some of those wires, and that's what that 4th bullet item is about. The next steps is we need to set up the InTouch Access Anywhere server. We need to install software and configure redundancy on the new servers. We're going to get a backup server, so we have everything on a redundant server in case the server we have with all of our data, because believe me, all this data is generated and collected, and we need it all to show the state of Indiana that we're operating this plant, and the EPA to show them that we're operating this plant properly. So we're going to get a backup server so we can have everything redundant. He needs to connect the reporting system, reporting and system monitoring servers to the email system, and develop mock-ups of Wonderware screens for changes that integrate the pre-treatment controls. Our influent or pre-treatment controls, whatever you want to call it, we have a screen in that building that we can go over. It's a touch screen, and we can change settings, and it helps automate our facility to some degree. And we want to integrate that into the Wonderware system so that we can actually make changes to that screen through the Wonderware, and InTouch and Wonderware are the same thing, instead of always having to go to that one building to do that. So that's another thing that he's working on. And on the back sheet, he's got a task breakdown and also a bar graph on there, which I'm not going to go through all that stuff here for the board meeting. You guys can look at that at your leisure. So the next thing I have is we have this public service amendment. I originally sent an email to the board telling everybody that I was just going to move forward with this based on the temporary authorization that the board provided me back in March. But Commissioner Smith had some questions about it, so I held off on issuing it. I did talk to Commissioner Smith about this, and he just had some basic questions about why we were doing this and what it was about and some of the amounts, and he told me on the phone anyway that he was fully supportive of this and would like to see this move forward. So I would like to ask the board for a motion to approve this amendment to the Public Service Agreement, Amendment Number 1 with Dynamic Motion Control for $37,680.
Could we get a motion?
Yes, Mike, I am still in support of it, and thank you for being responsive to my questions, so I greatly appreciate that. And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make the motion to approve Amendment Number 1.
Could we get a second?
This is Holt, I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No opposed.
The next thing we have, thank you very much, board members. This is something that we really need to complete. As you know, we've been working on this project for quite a while, and we were at a standstill for probably almost 2 years, a year and a half at least, and we're seeing the finish line here. And we get this done, it's going to move our plant. Jokingly, I'll say this: it's going to move our plant into the 90s. So something that's really going to help us. The next thing on the agenda is the South Shore double track. There's just an email in here. Part of the project is going to require the removal of some private sewer lateral lines with demolition of some of the properties. And just letting you know that we are continuing to communicate with Iniquity, and in this case their engineering firm, and we will work diligently to make sure that we get this accomplished in a manner that is satisfactory to the sanitary district, and also in a manner that does not impede the progress of the double track system. So, are there any questions about that? Okay. White ditch, we had it on the last agenda board meeting for 2 meetings, asking for the approval to send out new requests for quotes for the white ditch cleaning. Jeff Wright, our city engineer, gave us some additional contractors that we could send the request for quotes to, and we followed up with his list, and we sent the request for quotes to those contractors and also the contractors that quoted the first time. I know there's been some comments about how much this was going to cost, but Steve wanted me to point out, I don't know if Steve's on the line, but he wanted to point out that one of the reasons why this is costing more than maybe some of the projects that we normally see is because there's mitigation work that's required along this area because of wetlands and stuff, and we actually have to go back and replant a lot of the trees that we're going to remove to skim clean this ditch. So, but those quotes are due at our next board meeting, which is February 24th.
Mike,
yes, sir.
Any of that be done in-house?
You know, we looked at doing it in-house. That's how we started looking at it, trying to do it in-house, and it's just too much for us to do. That's where we were going to try to get started on it, and we never could get started on it. So finally, we decided to issue this request for quotes. And I guess if they all come back in real high again, then maybe we'll have to take another look at that. But it's a pretty big job. A lot of trees to cut down and hauling the trees out, and then getting in there, you got to have to put a culvert pipe across the road on Friar Road to get into the property and stuff like that. So, okay.
Okay, all right.
I put a note in here that one of our workers, one of our operators that runs our sludge press normally, as you may know, I sent out a leave of absence from him for an unpaid leave of absence through July 5th, if I remember correctly, through July 5th, because he's had some surgery. And we've had a lady in there who has been working temporarily on that job for a while. But I think it's time that I just put this job out for posting. So I just wanted you to be aware that I've done that. I guess in essence, it would add one more person to the operations section, since Ted is actually still on a leave of absence. I guess he's still an employee. But if he does come back, we will make the necessary adjustments so that we don't increase the staffing levels at the district, or we'll come to you and ask you for approval. We have some openings in some other departments where, if necessary, but I put this job posting out internally only within the sanitary district, so I just wanted you to have a copy of it and be aware of what was going on there. The next thing is this Chippewa, Chapala, Parkway, and Walnuts Road stormwater repairs. You may remember at one of our board meetings earlier in the year, John Doyle came to us with a proposal for some stormwater work and some sanitary work that was needed to be done. The sanitary lines were people that are connected into the sanitary sewer for the sanitary district treatment, and then if you remember, the stormwater was actually treating stormwater that, in a portion of it, that was running off of streets in Michigan City and running into Trail Creek, and the board agreed to, I believe, pay some portion of the cost, and this is, he's finally got around to sending us the invoice for that work, and it's in accordance with our agreement, and the total amount is $16,097.47, so I'd like to ask the board to approve that.
Could we get a motion?
So moved, it's fine.
Could we get a second?
This is Jeff, I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
No opposed.
Okay, and then the last thing we have under projects is the US Highway 35 and 20 sewer extension preliminary engineering report. As you know, this is the area that was annexed into the city of Michigan City, and I think we have a couple of years left, I believe, to install the sewers in that area. So before we want to do that, we want to try to look at, again, IDEM, state revolving loan funding, and in order to get state revolving loan funding, we need to do a preliminary engineering report. We have this agreement with SEH to do the preliminary engineering report for us, and they have an invoice here of $5,408.92, has been reviewed, and the verification of services form has been completed and signed off on, and I'd ask that the board approve the invoice from SEH in engineering for $5,408.92.
We get a motion for the invoice of 103830.
This is Jeff, I'll make a motion to approve the invoice 1038.
Do we get a second?
Yeah, this is Frank. I had made a motion, but Ed must not have heard me. So I'll second.
Awesome. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No opposed.
Okay, that completes all the projects. I apologize if I'm going too fast or talking too fast. It's just we're doing so much work over here, and I just didn't want to be on this board meeting call for, we could talk about this stuff for over 3 hours if we wanted to. So going back through the list, are there any questions about any of the projects, about any of them that I can help answer?
I have a quick question, Michael. It's Jeff.
cost is preparing a proposal for the Long Beach sewer extension.
Yes, sir.
Is the engineering cost, is that covered under the SRF funds?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And it'll all be paid 100% by the town of Long Beach.
Hey, Mike, I have a question too. It's not to do with this. I'm backing up a little bit about the essential workers getting the vaccination. Does that include the board members as well?
It's going to have to depend on some definition of the federal government that whoever's giving the vaccines, I shouldn't say the federal government, but what essential workers. So if you meet that criteria, you would. I would doubt that being a board member is going to make you an essential worker. I don't know, but I don't know. We'll have to wait when they come out with the criteria. And then, is there any other questions about the projects before I move on to the monthly and annual reports?
No.
In your packets are these monthly reports for December and for everyone, and then also these annual reports that every different department within the department and engineers and so forth put together. I could go through all those also. I actually wouldn't mind trying to pick out some highlights out of the 2020 report, but we've been here for over an hour already, so maybe I might save that for the February meeting. But are there any comments or questions about the either the monthly reports or the annual reports?
No.
We are going to put the annual reports on the website this year for anyone to look at. And I think the reports are really outstanding, and it really shows an awesome amount of work that we're all doing at the sanitary district. So appreciate the staff putting these together, and they're putting them together in a very timely manner too. So, okay.
Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and move on with Attorney Meyer.
Excuse me, yes. Just to make it clear in reference to the Long Beach project, we won't be having additional agreements. We already have an agreement with them, signed, sealed, and delivered. You know, how this project is going to be led by the sanitary district and implemented by the sanitary district, and the sanitary district's going to own the sewers when it's done. What we will be doing, though, is each step of the way, each important step of the way, for instance, when the engineers get hired, we will request that they review and approve in writing, that proposal by the engineers. And down the road, it would be the designs and specifications, and then, as each important step goes along, that they have something in writing showing they approved it. So both it indicates, number one, we've kept them informed, and number two, they didn't have any issues with what we were doing. In the long run, though, as Michael pointed out, everything is going to be paid for through the SRF loan, and the town itself is actually the guarantor on that. Other than that, I don't have any, I take that back. Michael mentioned the ESG mediation that didn't work out totally, so we're doing a little, I guess, more evaluation, but at some point in time, what I foresee, and I know Michael foresees the same thing, is we're going to have to probably pursue litigation. So we can't do that, or I can't file it without the board's permission. I don't want to get into the details at this point in a public meeting, but we can have, and if you want to have a public meeting, if you want the details, we should have an executive session where the public is excluded. It would be the board, myself, Michael, anybody Michael, thinks it also would be important to have to explain, kind of the positions of both parties, and then thereafter at a public meeting, the board would vote to allow the filing of the lawsuit, if that's what it's agreeable to. So I'm recommending that at some point, maybe before or the early part of the February meeting, or maybe before the February meeting, it would be, telephone conference, not in person, probably, to have an executive session for that purpose. If the board thinks it needs one before it can authorize the filing of a lawsuit. My difference between the two positions is several $100,000. So at this point, I don't, and I know Michael doesn't either, see that we're going to arrive at a mutual agreement as to what the amount should be that they pay us.
I would like to add just one thing, Jim, and just tell me to shut up if I'm saying the wrong thing, but I have been working and I haven't worked on it for a couple days, so we are planning on maybe making them one more offer to see if they would accept one more offer. And also along those lines, we were maybe going to try to do some more testing of the existing blowers. So I just don't know if we would be ready for that, Mr. Meyer, by the February board meeting date. But after we get this stuff polished up and make one more offer, if they don't accept our offer, then I don't see any other way we can move forward.
Yeah, and there's no deadline. So if the board would, if we don't get it that far by the February board meeting, we can do it, sort of before the March board meeting.
Sounds good.
Do you have anything else, Mr. Meyer?
Can I ask a question? I have a question. This is Jeff. I'm wondering about, so I guess I'm trying to understand the process. You guys are making an offer to, those guys, and then the bottom line question that I have is, who's in charge of the offer? What's the amount of the offer, and who approves the amount of the offer being made?
Well, up to this point, the board had previously voted to allow Michael and I to engage in the negotiations with them. So, therefore, we've been doing it. There's no legal reason why the board can't be involved. It's just the best way for that to occur, in my opinion, is not at public meetings, but, at executive session. So we avoid having the other side, hear our strategy, so to speak, and or, if a board member has questions or doubts or whatever, that they don't end up hearing about it, and then that board member gets subpoenaed to testify at a trial if we have one.
But also, Jim, that if there was to be an offer that we made or they made that you or I felt was something that we would consider, then we would bring that to the board for their approval and explain.
Yeah, the board would have to approve any agreement.
Yeah, that was the agreement. Hey, Mike, so you're going to decide when we're going to have this executive meeting?
I think that would be the best. Let us try one more time, because, again, I don't want to get into the details, but I feel like they're painting themselves into a corner, and we're going to try one more time. And if they want to, if they want to stay in the corner, then they can stay in the corner, I guess. I don't know how else to say it.
So this is Jeff again. I totally believe wholeheartedly that you, Michael, and Attorney Myers will represent us flawlessly. It's just I was trying to get a grasp on, we're supposed to have a certain level, and then is there any way that we can know without getting in trouble what, how far are we backed off? Those kind of things. I don't know.
We're several $100,000 apart. Let's just say that.
Well, let's have that meeting and we can discuss it in depth.
Okay, let's do that. Yep.
Yeah, let's have that executive meeting. Mr. Attorney Meyer, are you have any more for us?
No, but I'll answer anybody's questions if they have any.
Okay. more questions. So we're going to go ahead and move ahead to let's get a motion to approve the revenue and tax levy claims for payments. Could we get a motion?
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve. That's fine.
Could we get a second?
Jeff, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, no opposed. Will there be any old business? Will there be any old business? Will there be any new business?
So I wonder if I might ask just one more question for this SRF project. So there's agreements with Long Beach, and we're getting ready to hire Haas and Associates to execute the design. I mean, is there wiggle room in there for like me for like technical review from the city engineer's office, or I mean, does that fit in there somehow?
We have a right, we meaning Michigan Sanitary District, and of course Sanitary District would you have a right to review everything. Originally, Haas was actually hired to scope this project by Long Beach, and eventually it's rolled around to where we're at now. But no, there's no issue with you being able to review whatever Haas produces, including a proposal.
What I was getting at is I am Smith.
Just joined the conference.
Maybe once a month, or I don't know. I'll set that up with Tim just to keep tabs on the design, the process, the procedure.
Sure.
Understood. Okay.
That's new business. Will there be, well, let's make a motion to adjourn then. So we get a motion.
Mrs. Holt, I'll make that motion.
Could we get a second motion?
The unpaid member will make the second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. No opposed. The next board meeting, regular meeting, will be February the 23rd, 2021.
24th,
You
Jerry.
guys have a 24th. That's what I said. February the 24th, 2021. Have a great day, you guys.
Thank you.
Everybody have a great day. Thank you.
Great job, everybody. Thank you.
Nice.
Bye.